Whose child is this? Welcome. As the title entails, we are going to be animating images with literally no effort. This is a tool that can help you do some silly stuff with literally just doing keyframing. Here, we have the dumbass doing kicks and a stomp. I like that part. However, you can have it do, this is even a little much, but you can have it do very subtle movements if that's what you want to do. So I will take you through just how to do that. And as my favorite part of any tutorial, it's pressing that new composition button and giving it a great name. What can I say? Old habits die hard. First and foremost, I recommend that you take a look at the essentials of animation. A general tutorial will go far, but all I really do and what I utilize in these sorts of small image animations are stretch and squish, as well as just fluid movement, something that feels organic. It adds a lot to what is just images, and even if you're doing video essays, it goes a long way. So what I like to do first is you'll notice in every image you'll have this thing in the center. This is your anchor point. If you press Y, you can manipulate that anchor point to go wherever you like. If you're dealing with people, then typically your anchor point is going to be at their feet in the center. But if you want to have them do something crazy, you might have it over here so they go like back like that or something, or they're jumping, whatever you want. But for the demonstration, we will put it where his feet are. We will also see down by the scale, there's this little paper clip. I always think it's a paper clip. You'll unclick that, and that makes it so you can manipulate the horizontal individually. This isn't something too crazy, but if you weren't going to do what we're going to do next, you could just have him bounce about like so. And he'll do this. But for the beginners out there, if you learned in math class these parabolas, this demonstrates movement. Get used to parabolas. They are everywhere in art, if you want to do animation, that is. Now that we have that organized, you could even add a little bit of a rotation, and just on the tail end there, it bounces back and ricochets back to its start. It just makes it feel a little bit more real. Okay, now that we have just the basic movement of how we want them to go, let's get to the real part of the tutorial that matters. Not tint, I don't know why that's in there. Don't ask questions. We're gonna grab mesh warp and throw it there. This essentially, if we could make it simple, you have all these new points that you can manipulate. If I grabbed, say, this one, it would pull that, and it's just like freaking out. It would pull that and move this individual set of squares to that direction. So you can see it's pretty powerful if you want to animate individual parts. What I like to do is I like to bring it down to 3x3. What happened to it? I like to bring it to 3x3 because usually you get all the pieces of a body part that you want to move without all of the complications, because the more spots you have, the more confusing it is to make. So maybe we'll up it to like 4 here. So now that we have this, we need to animate it. It's kind of confusing because all the other ones animate a little bit more straightforward. So the one we're going to be doing is the distortion mesh. So let's put the anchor point over here, because that's where we're going to start. And then for the first point that we're going to be at, we're going to put it in the center. Or maybe we're going to do it the same, so maybe here. So the only time sync with this is if you wanted it to get complicated, like your friend Alax over here likes to do. I decided I didn't like it. So we're going to fix it a little. And also explain a little bit of this keyframing. So the way the distortion mesh works is typically I start by having a default. You can get the default by pressing reset up here. If you see the mesh warp in all of its settings, you press reset and the keyframe will do the basic one. It will put all the squares back, but that's okay. Then you move to your next keyframe, which is down here. We want to reset these. There we go. We don't want it to have too many. And then we can get to work. I wanted to do this. And like I was saying, it is a little bit of trial and error just to get it to look correct. And most of my problem is I always overdo it because I'm like, I want it to be wacky. And it's like, maybe don't make everything a YouTube poop, buddy. It goes a little bit wacky. Hello? There we go. That's more or less what it would look like. You could get it to move a little better. Let's remove those boxes with Control-Shift-H. That'll get rid of any layer option above. if you want to hide anything, such as the bounding boxes of any sort of, it's just like the UI basically. But you can't, if you forget about it, make sure you don't forget about it. If it's ever gone, Control-Shift-H, or whatever the variation of that is on Mac. But essentially, like, we could do more to this. I could make his cape like flow in the breeze and maybe mess with his other arm, but more or less this is just how it's done. And that's only 3 keyframes, right? If we go to, I'll put it on the screen. In recent videos I've used it to do just like things moving extremely like wildly. It's very fun to get them to do that, but it's really what you're going for. And if you want something a little bit more laid back, this is usually the way. And my only advice when you're doing stuff like this, which I'm going to show in the next example, is less is often more. For things that aren't as crazy wacky as a RelaxAlax video, you can do something a little bit more tempered with very simple movements. So here, I'm just going to add a little rotation. That may even be too much. How about we don't do that, okay? By the way, weird thing. If you double click any of these tabs, it opens them full screen. It's like, hey, can you fucking, I need my personal space, can you not? Honestly, if you kind of just follow the grid, you'll notice that it moves on its own. It can move like a leaf. If you imagine it like a leaf and how it blows in the breeze, or a flag, then you can probably just kind of read where these lines are going and make something that looks a little bit more realistic. And more or less you can do something like that. I kind of turned the background off so I could see a little better. Something along those lines. I don't know what's going on with his head there. Oh, you know what? It's just a weird quirk of doing keyframes sometimes. You can make some subtle movements on top of general keyframing stuff to make some pretty nifty looks. We could take it a step further, make him go, well, if he wanted to cooperate. And there you go. You can have very subtle movements and make your video essays all swaggy and whatnot and be like, oh, this guy's like, whew. Very subtle movement that you can add to pretty much any video, any image, to just give it that little bit of style. And I find this is most effective when you have a picture in the foreground and background. Unfortunately, I don't know where this photo is from, but let's say I took a screenshot from a game, or I took the Mona Lisa, or anything. I could move the front layer by just like cutting it out in a Photoshop, and then placing it, and then having the foreground and background move at different speeds and in different ways, and it could really simulate this cool effect. Long story short, it's very simple stuff. You see it in documentary type stuff, and it's now in your hands to put in whatever meme videos you want. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something. I've passed on the stove. I gotta go.